So when you get into sort of the swing of thinking of your whole life creatively, that you're creating every second, and these techniques that maybe you read about for the first time with Neville or some other teacher, where you go into an imaginal scene to adopt an end state, to bring about the thing that you want. Once you start living your life, sort of in that mindset where you realize you're creating all the time and you're trying to sort of embody a state all the time, that requires you to think about things differently. There's a transition period, which I think takes a long time in general for a lot of people. You'll find yourself trying to think about things differently than you normally do day to day, especially if you're doing stuff like affirmations on purpose to, consciously not in a meditative state. Neville talks about doing stuff right before sleep because your conscious mind is quieter at that time. But, throughout the day and throughout your life in general, you can't spend your whole life in a meditative state. And so when you're thinking about just when you're dealing with problems or you're trying to examine something about yourself or whatever, with your conscious mind totally active, you will often find it interjecting very unhelpful things, like reminding you of the opposite of what you're trying to think about. Like if, you're trying to come up with a way that a belief you have about yourself isn't true, or if you're trying to affirm something about yourself that is not currently reflected in your 3D reality, you'll find yourself sort of the awareness part of yourself, which and my hand is like coming down from above. Like you'll find your awareness meditating on the problem, and you'll find sort of your 3D level thinking interjecting unhelpfully. And one thing that I've noticed is that this conscious chatterbox is really weak. It's easily tricked. It's easily dealt with. And I have a couple ways that I deal with that depending on what mood I'm in. If I'm feeling irritable and that's why I'm sort of working through something in my mind, I'll treat it irritably. I'll just be like, thank you for that astute observation. Now kindly fuck off. And it does. Or, if I'm not in that state of mind, I'll say something like, hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. This is just an experiment. We're safe. Because the ego is really just a mechanism, and the ego is the thing that is doing the chattering. It's not, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff out there about the ego and what it is, and, my personal take on the ego, and I think it's, there's evidence of this everywhere. It's just trying to keep you safe. It's just, it doesn't think, but its purpose is to try to keep you from doing things that are going to bring harm to you. So when it does that, when you have that interfering thought, that's just the part of you that is trying to keep you from adopting this new unknown thing that, might end up with you hurt in its perception. So look at the ego as an annoying mechanism that you can easily trick. It's like when a 5-year-old is throwing a tantrum and you say, is that a pink elephant? Or something, and they go, what? And then they get distracted. Think of your ego, think of the interjecting thoughts, not as you telling you the truth, but as a mechanism that your brain has to try to keep you safe, and that is unnecessary. And you can easily come up with things you can tell it that will shut it right off. I've gotten pretty good at that. So distract it, trick it, or gently abuse it, embarrass it, humiliate it a little. Just say, oh, okay, that was really good. That was really good. I couldn't have thought of that myself. It works really well. I hope this helps somebody.